Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. Tower clear.
We got a roll program.
But as I became Agent Orange and could turn around and yell at the people in the stands and beat up the baby face and not have to smile at people and not have to shake hands, a whole new world opened up to me. And I thought to myself, this feels a whole lot more natural. And so I just let the evil side of my personality take over. And boy, what a ride it was.
Welcome, friends, to the Pioneers of the Independent Networks. I'm your host, Ricky Blues. This is your co-host, Tim Walker.
And I'm your special guest star, Agent Orange.
And you've heard it right from the horse's mouth. We're continuing our retrospective look at the career of Agent Orange this week.
What an interesting character Agent Orange was. It was so different from anyone else in the card, and it was so memorable to the fans. I think it sets you apart from the rest of the crowd. And the one thing I really remember, back around 1992, I believe, was a match you had with Nikolai Volkov down at the Baltimore Original Sports Bar. And I believe it was a flag match. I believe it may have even been on Flag Day.
Flag match on Flag Day. Yes, I do remember that pretty well. Big Nikolai Volkov, flag versus flag match. Hey, Agent Orange was doing well. He was, getting a little recognition from promoters. He could sell some tickets. He could work the crowd. He could work his opponent. So I got the opportunity to wrestle against Nikolai a couple of times and was able to, develop a relationship there. And as that evolved, we continued to book the match. The match got better and better. It culminated in a flag versus flag match. And again, the venue escapes me right now, but I've been hit in the head with a chair a whole bunch of times, and I'm lucky to remember the things that I do remember.
But what a great gimmick. I mean, it was able to move you from lower on the card as Hurricane Mitchell to up to the top of the card with Nikolai Volkov.
Well, it was not your typical masked wrestler persona. I had, in addition to just the mask, there was the story behind it. Agent Orange was a war hero. He was proud to serve his country. He was home on leave. He was walking down Main Street, USA in his uniform, proudly walking down the middle of the street, and all of a sudden there's these hippie protesters coming out of nowhere, calling me a baby killer, a murderer, a rapist, telling me what I'm doing is wrong, and it just kind of set me over the edge. I kind of lost it, and the next thing I really remember is I'm waking up at the VA hospital, and I've been sedated, I've been restrained, and I look up and I see this vision of loveliness, this beautiful angel of mercy, the nurse who was taking care of me while I was at the VA hospital, this young, innocent, beautiful blonde girl who wanted nothing more than to take care of me. And so I used that to my advantage. And I twisted her mind, and I used her to help me escape from the VA hospital. And as a result of that, we were able to travel the country wrestling under this mask of shame that I adopted as a result of those people calling me a baby killer, a rapist, and a murderer.
And that bitterness really came out in the ring as well. You could really feel that bitterness as a fan watching your matches?
Well, I think that wearing the mask, I had to really show my emotions in other ways. With the mask on, yes, you could see the anger and the venom in my eyes, but you really couldn't see the anger and the facial expressions because of the mask, so I had to bring that about in other ways. And sometimes they may have been
Brutal?
brutal, against the rules, malicious. Yeah, brutal's a good word.
I would say that a lot of our wars were brutal.
Brutal was always a good go-to whenever, whenever things got a little crazy. Brutality was just another route to go.
And with that, I'm going to say this. Even though the fans loved to hate you, which is great, you don't want to be that mad guy. You either want to be the loved guy or the guy that they hate the most. And you were. You were the most hated wrestler in a lot of organizations.
I was very proud of that.
And you should be, because you did your job. That's what you were there to do. But in that, you garnered respect behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, because a lot of those people that hated you also loved to see you wrestle, because they were hoping you would get your comeuppance because you were so good at it. And you even turned Tim. If you take a look today, he still gladly sports your color, Agent Orange.
Well, I did notice that when I walked in, and of course I took it as a sign of respect,
Of course.
as it should have been.
Of course. And the fans really did hate you,
Right.
and it led to them coming to the shows and buying tickets. So
There was
doing
nothing
your
I
job.
liked. There was nothing I liked more than getting nose to nose with a fan. And I can picture one guy in particular who used to come out to the MEWF shows. Heavy guy with the buzz cut and the beard mustache. And he was always in one of the corners. And that guy used to give me hell, and I used to give it right back to him. That was one of my favorite things. But the beautiful thing, getting back to the mask, the beautiful thing about wearing a mask was I could go and I could wrestle and I could be as bad as I always was. And then afterwards, I'd go out and I could walk amongst them. And I would even go up. There were times where I went up and engaged that guy in conversation, the guy that hated me, that was giving me all that shit. And I would go up to, man, how was that match? That son of a bitch, Agent Orange. And I would get him going. And it was just so much fun because he just had no clue. And I hate that guy. I just want to get in the ring and stop him. I hate the guy.
A true worker in heart.
awesome.
Working the crowd in gimmick, working the crowd as the crowd. You gotta love it. That's a true worker.
That was the only time I really wanted to interact with the crowd.
Okay, but I like it. Psychological warfare.
It was fun.
It
good.
set the seed continuously.
It was
Now-
good. And
oh,
the other thing, hold on a second.
sure,
before- one more thing, getting back to the mask, because I do have a certain fondness for the mask, and of course, as you can tell by what I'm wearing, I have a fondness for men in masks. Sometimes it's just an ordinary guy that puts on a mask and then becomes a superhero. And when you get right down to it, that's pretty much what we all did.
Right.
Whether we put on an actual mask or just the mask of our gimmicks and our persona, we went out there night after night and got to be superheroes.
And it's true. It absolutely did. I tell you this, I enjoyed, and I've said this on the show, we talked about feuds one time, and one of the episodes was about feud. And I brought up our feud and how, as a young guy, you had 5 or 6 years on me in the business, how they brought me up through that feud, and it taught me so much about what a face was supposed to be, what a face was supposed to do, and just because the face didn't win, I always had to respect the fan because it was you pulling out that old wily veteran moves that maybe it was cheating, maybe it wasn't cheating, maybe it was perceived as that way, but it taught me so much about understanding what my responsibility was and what my debt of responsibility was to those fans who were paying to see us.
He's had enough. Ring the bell, referee.
I've always loved our feud because it went for several years, and then in a Legend show much later, they brought us back again.
Many years, many territories.
Absolutely.
Many different arenas.
Different promotions, promoters, they loved what we did, and that I always hang my hat on that feud. You've had feuds with a lot of folks. We'll talk about them in a second. I have too, but I always come back to that one because it progressed so nicely, and it ended up in a really nice way. They finally, moving into a new promotion, was able to say you finally get the Duke Ricky Blues after a couple years of doing what we needed to do, and it hurt no one. It built both characters so well. There was a lot of that I attribute to you knowing what you were doing and understanding your character and taking care of me to make sure that, okay, is Ricky Blues the guy that I can work with? Is this something that we can build with? And I look back at your career and my career, and I see a parallel in when you were in Virginia with David Lehigh, working for him. You had a great feud with Nicky Air Hawks, and it kind of paralleled the feud that you and I had. And you got to attribute that to David looking at you, Mr. Lehigh, looking at you and saying, I know this guy is going to put people in the seats. Talk a little bit about just that feeling of knowing that the promoter has that much faith in you, that they're putting you in a premier feud like that. Because you've been in some good ones.
Well, the VWA was really where I cut my teeth in the business. I did a lot of stuff in Baltimore, but the success I had in Virginia, I think, really outshined the success that I had in Maryland.
The Pin Crew also caught up with David Lehigh. Dave was the owner, the booker, and the promoter for the VWA. What Dave said was this: what impressed me most about Agent Orange was his professionalism. He was always on time and ready to do whatever was needed of him. He never complained or really asked for anything. He just showed up and did his job. He was a great worker and an even better person. The feud between him and Nicky Hawks was one of the best in the VWA. Their styles were perfectly matched for each other. They always gave the fans more than their money's worth. Even the other guys in the locker room would watch. Hey, even I was a mark for these guys. He was voted most hated in the VWA several times because he was great at working the crowd into a frenzy, but also he was a great heel and knew how to put the babies over so the crowd would love them. He was a favorite in the locker room too because he had respect for the other guys and was always trying to improve, and he didn't have a huge ego. It was always about making the matches and angles we were running the best they could be with Agent Orange. That's why he was one of my personal favorites as a worker and as a man. One last thing. I met him through the Cream Team. They kept telling me about this great worker with a good gimmick, but I was hesitant to use a guy with a mask unless it was for an angle. But I had so much respect for Dave and Rip that I gave him a shot, and was I ever glad I did, because Agent Orange was a big part of the VWA, and it wouldn't have been the same without him.
Going down there in a promotion that, at that point, very few Maryland guys were down there, so it wasn't like riding anybody else's coattails down there. And the few Baltimore guys that were down there, we were not known guys. So we had to go in to an established area with established guys and a pecking order already and get ourselves in there and move ourselves to the top.
Gotten started in a very ferocious manner as Nicky Air Hawks kind of doing some preliminary taunting of Agent Orange. And Nicky gets 10 punches from that corner, and he whips Agent Orange in. These two guys have a feud that's been going back for at least a year and a half. At one point, they had a feud going for the junior title, which Agent Orange now holds. But now this feud for the heavyweight championship is just something that is just unbelievable. And Nicky Hawks has a grudge to carry with Agent Orange. Agent Orange assisted in hurting the knee of Nicky Hawks, which now evidently has healed. Nicky is way up top. He is on the top rope. And could he be going to the outside? He is almost, his head is almost touching, and there he goes with a flying body press onto the outside. Just a magnificent move by Nicky Air Hawks. He goes from that top rope all the way onto the outside. His head was touching the ceiling. And a body press on to Agent Orange, and there he's going to go up top again. This time only about 4 feet shorter. He measures Agent Orange, and here he comes up, but that time he misses. Agent Orange, you can say whatever you want about him, but he's an experienced wrestler. And it took Nicky Hawks a little bit too long to set that one up, and because of it, he just went sprawling. And missed with the big flying body press. And now the tide has changed as Agent Orange is slapping away. He's got a choke on Nicky Hawks. And now another chokehold. Oh, and that's going to hurt. As Agent Orange jumps over the top rope, holding on to Nicky's head and jamming that throat right down. And there he goes again. That'll take the air right out of you. And this time Agent Orange just takes Nicky Hawks and throws him on the other side. Couldn't really see it, but we heard it as Nicky goes into that security railing. And Agent Orange is going up top himself. This Agent Orange just comes right down on Nicky Hawks. So both of these guys have done maneuvers from the top rope outside of the ring. And Agent Orange thinks that he's got everything dealt with now. So the thing he has to remember, in order to get the belt, he's got to have a pin. And getting Nicky Hawks counted out won't do it. And Agent Orange is saying that he's the champion. Well, he's half right. He's the junior heavyweight champion. As Nicky gets back, well, he tries to get back into the ring, but a stomp into the face kind of puts it into that situation. Agent Orange saying that he's bored. And as usual, Agent is taunting some of the fans. And Agent Orange pushes referee David Lehigh, who says, hey, buddy, one more deal like that, you're going to find yourself back in the locker room with a disqualification on your hands. And Agent kind of pushes referee David Lehigh out of the way, and another kick to the head of Nicky Hawks. But now Nicky has had enough. Nicky does have a temper, and there he goes with that shoulder block into the stomach, and there he goes with another one. Nicky, he comes in. Kind of a Pillman maneuver as Air Hawks comes off of that top rope with a big clothesline on Agent Orange as these two guys trade blows right in the center of the ring. More luck for Nicky as he was able to block off Agent Orange's shots and he was able to get some in on his own. And we can see very well up close as 5 quick punches to the head. It was almost like those punches were coming right at the camera, and there's a knee. After the match, here's a quick clothesline. Hit the bell again. And the action continues after the match is over. A maneuver that you don't see very often as Nicky Hawks is trying to get things back in order. And he and Agent Orange, as Nicky Hawks just rips off part of the pants of Agent Orange. And once again, the winner. Once again, the winner, and still VWA heavyweight champion, Mickey Hawks.
Wow. These things are really getting the heat up, Agent Orange. You're scaring me a little. I see that gleam in your eye, and I think some of that violence is going to come back, and I'm kind of like sitting here antsy myself.
Where do we go from here?
I tell you what, we've provided a lot of good information, Tim, we're not done yet. We got some more to go. So we're thanking you, our friends, for joining us this week, and we're hoping that you join us again next week as we continue this look at our special guest, Agent Orange.
That's right.